Are you one of these people who are taken in by brand names? By that, I mean, do you routinely purchase products for, over the odds high prices just because that product has got a well-known brand name, a brand personality, if you like, and that brand is going to communicate attributes that will hopefully stick to you, so it will change other people's perceptions of you in a more favourable light because you're consuming this product that's got the trendy brand name. Over the years, I've known quite a few people who are into that, who purchase elements of individual identity to project onto others through publicly buying and then displaying brands that they've bought. And what I'm going to do today is talk about a connection that I think I've established between these people and those who were the very, very enthusiastic supporters of the People's pantomime. Oh, and by the way, I don't think that these boats would be an example of people buying brands to try to confer status, because these boats, they don't really have brand names. What they are instead is they're things that are useful. They allow people to go out onto the sea and enjoy nature and do a bit of fishing. So not all expensive things are bought to confer status. So let me give you an example of something that is one of these brands. Let's call them status brands. So my question is, how can you convince somebody to pay 80 quid for a white t-shirt? Because it is possible to buy a pretty good high quality fully cotton t-shirt, organic cotton, maybe whatever it is, for 10 quid. But there are some people out there who are prepared to buy a cotton t-shirt for 80 quid. So how can you increase the price by that much and get people to foolishly buy this stuff? Answer is, you put some sort of logo and brand name on it. Now, the example that I used to use when I was teaching at school was Jack Wills. Now, this is probably a bit of an old example now, and I'm kind of out of the loop because I'm no longer interacting with these people. But the last school that I worked at, it was quite a posh, independent, private school. And at that time, the school fees, it's a lot of money. It's 30 grand a year. Plus on top of that, you have to pay your taxes to get the 30 grand. And, so you're looking at, 50 grand per kid. And, you might have, 2 or 3 kids. So you're talking, an awful lot of money. So if you're going to send your kid to a school that charges 30 grand a year, many of those people, they want others to know about it. So how do you achieve that? Well, you need to wear clothes and speak in a certain way to confer that status, to tell other people that you belong to that particular club, that very rich, prestigious club. So Jack Wills, the brand, was developed for that particular purpose. I know it's not like this now. Brands have life cycles, and it went through its life cycle, and it's now pretty much mass market, or maybe even dying. But basically, what they did was that they invented this brand out of nothing. And brands are based on personalities. It's almost like the brand was a person. So for Jack Wills, I used to say, if you look at their advertisements from back in the day, they always tend to feature originally white people, quite a lot of blondes. What else? All of a healthy weight, no porkers or anything like that. They were all, they looked like they went to a private school, basically. And the idea of this brand, they were all, as I say, attractive people. And the goal of this was that if you wore those Jack Wills clothes, the hope was that other people would see you wearing that brand publicly, and they would associate the brand personality of Jack Wills. Some of it would rub off onto you and change the opinion of other people about you, change it in a more favourable way. And that's how brands work. So I used to say to the students, you know, if you were to describe Jack Wills as a personality, would he be good looking? Would he be fat or thin? Would he be humorous? Would he go to the local state comp? You get the idea. And the students that I taught, they would all laugh about it. Basically acknowledging that they were in on this same game, that they routinely bought brands that they wore publicly to change people's perceptions of them. So you might say, well, Watson, you're labouring this a little bit. Maybe I am. But here's the point of what I'm going to try, what with my kind of hypothesis. And what I'm going to try and put forward today is that not everybody is taken in by brands. Like, I've never really been interested in owning and publicly consuming brands because I've always seen it as being a bit pathetic. You know, I've always thought to myself that, you know, for myself, I've always had my own personality. Why would I need to consume a brand personality when I've got my own personality myself that I'm actually quite proud of? I'm proud of who I am, and I know myself. I don't need a crutch, an emotional crutch to support me. I know who I am. I don't need brand names to speak for me on my behalf. Yeah, so what I'm saying is that strong people don't need brand names that are there to try to confer status. So here's the point. I think that there's a connection between the type of person that fell for the Soviet Union nonsense and the people that fall for purchasing overpriced brands. I think that these people, there's an overlap. I was like walking over that bit there. It was a bit precarious. So yeah, I think that there's an overlap between these groups of people. People who are more likely to be taken in by brands are also the people who are more likely to be fully on board with the people's pantomime. Why? Well, these people, they don't really know who they are themselves, and what matters to them almost above all else is, what do other people think about me? And they're obsessed with this. They're absolutely obsessed with this. What do other people think about me? And they'll do anything to try to change what people think about them to make it more favourable, including lying and buying expensive branded products, you know, with big logos on. So, as I say, it's purchasing elements of individual identity. So hopefully people think, oh, well, he wears Jack Wills or he has a Mercedes. So all the brand personality of Mercedes or Jack Wills, well, he must be a little bit like that aggregation of aspects of individual identity. Associate the brands with him. So people who don't know who they are, they're more likely to be interested in buying overpriced brands and going along with stuff that they shouldn't have gone along with in a desire to fit in and influence other people. So I guess another thing that you would say here is ego. These people tend to have big egos. It's not enough for them to know who they are, warts and all, and to accept that. And, you know, if they have faults, to kind of work on those faults and try to become better people by acknowledging and then learning from their mistakes over life. But these people have, the ones that are taken in by brands, you know, I am what I consume, and you will associate me with what I consume, and you will be impressed by what I consume. These people, I think they tend to have like huge egos, absolutely massive egos, and because of this, they're absolutely desperate for people to perceive them in a favourable light. So I don't think I'm stretching this here at all, but the sort of ego of many people in the modern world, you know, this brand obsessed world, they it's at the point where they've created their own mini god that they're going to worship, you know, in addition to mummy governments, obviously. And their kind of false god that they worship is themselves, the god of themselves. So the brands that they consume are a substitute for their own personality and identity. And they live in a fake world where they believe that they have the same qualities as these brands that they publicly consume. So I used to see this a lot when I was living in Surrey. You see people out and about, and you know, it was I don't know, some of the looks were kind of a bit mad. You know, the jeans and flip-flops but no socks, and these what you might call private school brands. They were so desperate for other people to know which tribe that they belonged to, and yeah, it's just all about trying to impress others. They would say they were like actors who were given lines, given costumes to wear, and they were taking part in a big play, like a live action role play. And of course, when the old deadly what's it came along, they were all too happy to put on the blue underpants on their head and adopt all the other paraphernalia associated with the people's pantomime. It all came as second nature to them. They were used to putting on their costumes and playing their parts, and you know, for them, they loved let's play doctors and nurses, or let's play at being a scientist. It wasn't a surprise that they actually participated so enthusiastically. So I know you've got this phrase, NPC, non-player character. And it was like that, you know, there were various parts to play, actors' roles in the people's pantomime. You know, some people played doctors and nurses, some people played scientists, and and it was like the media kind of gave the peasants the scripts, you know, and the people chose which role they wanted to play, and they kind of acted it all out. And it was all as fake as these brands, you know. It was as fake as Jack Wills or Mercedes Benz or a lot of these other brands, you know, that people spend small fortunes on, Porsche or Porsche, as I should say, just to try to make other people view them more favourably. Same thing. So the other thing as well to say is that the powers that shouldn't be, the cabal, the funny handshake club, the Satanists, whatever you want to call them, all of those things and more, they also understand the power of branding. So what do they call people like me who aren't taken in by brand names? People who are not prepared to pay price premiums for elements of individual identity that we want to transplant and replace our own God-given personality. They'll call us, I don't know, what they call us, like weirdos, yeah, cheapskates maybe. But actually what's happening now is, I guess maybe this what they call the truth movement, is that one of the brands that they've created? I think you could make an argument for that. One thing that they're not going to call us is independent critical thinkers. And over the last 3 years, there's a lot more of us now who awake, let's say, than there were. And they don't like that, obviously. There's more people who now know that the game's rigged, and we're participating in a satanic system. And materialism and ego that are linked with that, linked up with materialism, status, ego, all of that is satanic. It's not based on love, it's not based on authenticity. Their system, it's 100% fake, with their fake brands and their fake news. So what I've noticed, or come to realise in the last week or so, is how they manage to create social movements that they can then, or maybe they can identify something that's gone on and then they can slap a completely new branding on top of it. So this is like branding to discredit people that you don't like, that are speaking the truth. People that are not interested in your Babylon brands and they want to live outside of your Babylon society. So you want to create a brand, as I say, to discredit these people. And I'm going to tell you now how they do it. So what they do is that they create somebody like RB, Russell, second name B. Oh wow, there's a coincidence, isn't there? Maybe that's what made me think about it. Maybe that surname of Russell's was no coincidence. But anyway, you create somebody like him, and to establish the brand, you make it good for a while. This is another trick that they often play, isn't it? You want to create a new brand, so you need to create a good reputation. So for a while, maybe the brand is quite good quality and maybe it delivers excellent value for money. And then what you do after that slowly is that you milk it. You milk the brand and you milk the sheep, or you knock the quality down and you push the price. So in the case of the establishment created people like Russell, B, maybe initially, he starts speaking the truth. Maybe he starts blowing the whistle on some scams that the World Economic Forum has got lined up. So this artificially created character that the cabal have generated, he makes predictions that turn out to be true. So people begin to trust the brand, because that's basically what brands were, weren't they? Originally, when they started out, they were marks made on the hides of cows with red hot pieces of metal. That was the original connotation of the word branding. And the brands help you to identify and distinguish, your cattle from somebody else's. And then later they acted as almost like guarantees of quality. This is a particular type of this and the quality is good and you can trust it, and here's how you identify it through this branding mark. Anyway, so that's what these kind of, let's call them the word that people use, shills, yeah? So these are artificially created characters. They delivered the goods initially, so people trusted them. Then what happens is, after a while, you get your character that you've created to say something outrageous, maybe like something like the Russell B, he never did this, but there are plenty of others. I can't remember the name. There's one that's regularly appeared on James Dellingpole's podcast. And this guy said some pretty outrageous and factually incorrect kind of revisionist history that really, the German little moustache guy, he was really the good guy in World War II. And, the genocide that took place of people that read the first 5 books of the Bible, never happened, or all this kind of like nonsense, right? So this isn't an accident. This is the point that I'm trying to get at here. What they hope, it's a psyop called misinformation, basically. So you pump out some kind of like mad stuff, and then you get people who followed this person before, who trusted them, to then agree with this crazy stuff that they're spouting off. And the point of the crazy stuff is a tactic called guilt by association. So it's like, oh well, you've watched this site, you were a regular visitor to you know, XYZ, Hugo Talks, James Delingpole, whatever. And there was lots of anti people that read the Torah, you know, the first 5 books of the Bible, and basically what that does is it tars people with the same brush. It's like, well, you were naive enough, you took the bait, all the stuff that was true, and then what we did, we set you up with all the nonsense stuff, outrageous, distasteful nonsense, and you also maybe retweeted that, or you know, you agreed with it, or you didn't call it out. So what they'll then say is that anybody who's in the truth movement, they're all like that. They're all far right. They're all anti-thingamajig. Yeah, they're all white supremacists. So it's almost like the establishment have done a rebranding exercise. You know, they've taken the truth movement, they've created a brand personality of far right, Jew hating, white supremacist, and then they've applied those new brand attributes to this particular movement, and that's you stuffed, that's you discredited. So what are my conclusions then? First one is just reject this kind of Babylon system, and that includes wasting your money on buying stupid brand names that are designed to confer elements of individual identity onto you and rub off on you to try to, the goal being to try to influence other people's perceptions of you in a more favourable way. Right, so it's a stupid waste of money. And then secondly, I don't think it's good for your like self-respect. You should know who you are yourself and what you stand for. You don't need to import somebody else's brand characteristics and use that as a substitute for your own personality. You know, it's up to you to develop your own character and your own values and what you stand for, rather than to just be an accumulation of the brand characteristics of the products that you consume. The second conclusion is to watch out for toxic brands that are traps. You know, like all brands are artificial and fake. That's what they are. I also think, was it Lenin who said the best way to control the opposition is to be the opposition. As I say, I think this has been happening with these fabricated brands like Russell, is that they're designed to hook people in, and then you've got them. You can then change the brand up, rebrand it up, and then, you know, you were a regular consumer of that brand, you trusted the brand, you're still publicly defending this brand, and then you're guilty and discredited by association, and that's you out of the game. So the alternative then is to develop your own personality, as I keep on saying, and to learn from your errors and be proud of who you are and develop your own personality. And you are God's creation, one of God's creations. You're unique, the only example of you that will ever exist. And as I say, you don't need these crutches called brands. And yeah, that's all I want to say today. So God bless.